Basically, TikTok will compare the results and it will choose the best or the best performing campaign on that test. There's other ways to run the test and compare the results, but we'll go through that in later sections. And the final setting is the budget. So you can set a total campaign budget. You don't have to, but you can do that. I like to set a campaign budget just to be sure, just so in case I would miss a number when I'm adding the daily budget, I don't want to waste accidentally $10,000 a day. So I'll put a total campaign budget that I want to have on a daily basis there. So let's say I'll put $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever is the top budget that you're not sure you're not going to spend more than what you've selected. So these are the settings that you're going to experience. You can see inside the campaign level. Now you know what are all the ad objectives and what's the best one for your business, and you know the basic campaign level setup. Don't worry, I'm going to walk you through step by step the actual campaign level as we create our campaigns in the later lectures. In the next section, in the next lecture, we're going to take a look at the ad group level and what are all the settings in there. Most other platforms, to be honest, is the ability to create lookalike audiences. So that means if you have, let's say we'll take the website traffic for an example. Your website traffic in the last month, let's say 20,000 people have visited your website. You can tell TikTok that you want to create a lookalike audience from these 20,000 people, and TikTok will find people that are very similar to them. They look like them. They have the same demographic and psychographic traits, but they're not exactly those users. So you can easily find people that are very likely to buy from you because they're very similar to your current customers, but they're not your customers just yet. This is, when you're starting off, by far the most powerful way to target users. So if you have the option to get a custom audience, absolutely do it. Then create a lookalike audience and target those users. There are some requirements to build a lookalike audience. TikTok's official recommendation is that you should have a custom audience of at least 10,000 people to create a lookalike audience. That means that if you need at least 10,000 visitors to create a proper, effective lookalike audience. Of course, if you have less, it's still going to work and you should still try it, but it may not be as efficient. I know that on Facebook and Instagram, the ideal number is anywhere from 10,000 to 50,000 users, a custom audience to create a best lookalike. So on TikTok, it's very similar, but the official recommendation is at least 10,000 users in your custom audience to create a great lookalike audience. When you're creating the lookalike audience, you'll have three options. You could choose broad, specific, or balanced, which is in the middle. The broad is obvious. You just want to find a match that's not super specific, but it's it's kind of like those users, but you want to get more users. The specific is again obvious. You want to find users that are as close of a match to those users, and the balance is in the middle. Which one you choose depending on your use case and your business. If you have if your product that appeals to the mass market, you can choose just the broad. If you have a very specific product that's in a very niche market, you want to choose the specific option. So those are three options for your best lookalike audience. But I'll show you all of this when we're doing the follow along. You can actually follow step by step as I create a custom audience and then create a lookalike audience. So to recap, now you know that there's three ways of doing targeting audiences on TikTok. There is the interest-based, which is the least effective. There is the demographic, which is the second best. And then there's the custom audiences, which is the best one. You also know that there's three ways to upload custom audience, from a custom file, from an engagement on your content, from app activity, and from website traffic. And you also know that after you have a custom audience, you can create a lookalike audience, and you can create a broad, balanced, or specific lookalike audience. In the next lecture, we're going to look at the other settings inside of the ad group level. The ad group level has more settings than just targeting. Some are more important than others. In this lecture, we're going to cover all the remaining settings that are important. By the end of the lecture, you'll understand which settings are important and how to use them for best performance. First, in the ad group, you'll choose the placement, meaning where exactly, which kind of networks the ad will be displayed in. Just because you're running ads on TikTok doesn't mean they'll only be displayed on TikTok. There are other apps and other networks within the TikTok ecosystem. So the main one is TikTok, but there's a couple of other ones. Most of them are only relevant for specific countries. There's one just for India, there's one just for Japan, for example. So you can manually choose which networks you want to select, or you could also just choose automatic, which will select all of the available networks and distributions. I like to choose automatic because most of them come from TikTok anyways, but you can find users in the remaining networks as well. Next, you'll have to submit some basic information about the app. For example, if you're choosing a traffic campaign sending people to a website, you have to actually list the URL of the website. You'll have to upload the logo of your company so that's displayed in the ad, also the name of your business, so that will be displayed. In this small section, the most important part is the tags. And we're going to, again, show you all of this step by step as we're doing a follow along. But basically the tags are short keywords, up to 20 keywords you can select, that allow the algorithm or help the algorithm match the right users with your product. So a keyword could be, for example, app, website. You could also use your industry. You could say gaming or cosmetics or travel. So just 20 short keywords that describe your product. Next setting is the creative optimization. Now, this little toggle you can choose it'll match the different creatives, different videos you upload with all the different headlines. It'll create combinations, and it'll find the combination that perform the best. So let's say you'll upload 3 images and then 3 videos, and each of those will have a headline. Now, the creative optimization will mix and match the headlines, the text that you provide, with the different visual creatives. It'll find the best performing combination. Then there is the daily budget. The minimum required budget, daily budget on TikTok is $20 right now. It might change in the future, but there's a minimum you can spend right now. Now, just because you put $20, it doesn't mean all $20 will be spent. It is not guaranteed, but the algorithm will not spend more than $20. Sometimes it goes a little bit over, it could be 21 or 20.5, but it's more or less $20. I personally like to start as low as possible, so I'll start my campaigns at $20, and then if they perform well, I'll scale them up to a higher budget. So even if I'm spending thousands of dollars a day and I have maybe 100 new campaigns, I will only start $20 a day on each of the campaigns, at the ad groups, and then only if they perform well, I'll slowly start to scale them up. But we're going to cover scaling in a later lecture. Finally, we have the bidding option. This is where you tell TikTok how much you're willing to pay for a customer. We've covered that, the auction and the bidding section, in the previous lectures. To recap, now you know what are all the settings in the ad group, and you know which ones are important and which ones to choose for your business. In the next lecture, we're going to dive deeper into the actual ad level. Look at the different creatives and headlines, the pictures and the videos that you can provide in the ad level. The videos you're going to use in your ads can make or break the entire campaign. In this lecture, we're going to cover all the different types of creatives that you can use, and by the end of the lecture, you'll understand what are the best creatives for you. When you get to the ad level of your campaign, you really have two options for the creatives: pictures and videos. Pictures are really not recommended. The entire TikTok is a video-based platform. Pictures don't work as user-generated content, they don't work as organic content, and they're not going to work very well as pictures. So you can upload pictures and videos, but it's really pictures of your product, but it's really not recommended. It's probably not going to work very well. You won't get many users, and the ads themselves will be quite expensive. Then there is the videos that you can upload. They should be in vertical format. The length is anywhere between 5 seconds and 60 seconds. We've noticed that shorter videos tend to work better. TikTok is a very fast platform, but users have a very, very short attention span. If you don't catch their attention in a second or two, they'll keep scrolling. So you need to catch their attention in a second or two, and then you need to communicate your message to them as soon as possible. Ideally about 15 seconds. We rarely do any ads that are more than 15 seconds because they just don't tend to perform very well. I'm going to link to a document that'll describe all the actual technical specifications of the video, like the resolution and the length and the dimensions and all of that, so you can check that out. Also, in the next section of this course, there are strategies for more sort of advanced business strategies for TikTok, and there's also lectures about more advanced strategies for content. And there I talk about how to generate content for your ads that will outperform your previous content, or very likely to outperform what you have done before. I've run hundreds of tests and experiments. I spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to figure out what types of creatives work the best on social media platforms, including TikTok. And in those later sections, I share all of those insights with you. So if you want to dive deeper to find out what type of videos work well, make sure to go to that section and those lectures on advanced strategies for content. To give you a brief insight, what you can expect there, and it's basically that content that looks like it's organic content on any given platform tends to work better than ads. If you're watching this course, that means you're probably familiar with TikTok and you know what kind of videos work on TikTok. If you've only jumped to this section and you haven't seen the previous sections about TikTok in general, I do highly recommend you watch those so you understand the platform, the users, and the behavior on the platform. It's not the same like Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook. So there are specific types of content that will work better on TikTok. Like I said, it needs to look like organic content. It'll still say sponsored in the actual video, but if you can find or you can create videos that are very authentic to the platform, that use the same kind of words, the same jargon, they use the same style, that's going to perform much better than standard sort of corporate style messaging in videos. People have a sort of automatic ad filter on their minds. As soon as we see something that looks like an ad, we keep scrolling. Unless it's an amazing ad and it catches our attention somehow, but that happens so rarely. But there's an easy way to create user-generated content from TikTok users to run as your ads. Again, I'll cover those things in detail lectures, but if you can create content that looks like organic content on TikTok, you're going to perform much better. When you create the videos for your ads, if you can use people that are in your target audience in the video, that'll be ideal. It's a basic psychology 101. We trust people that look like us, and we buy people that we trust. So if you can find people to be in your videos, and ideally if you yourself are within target audience, you can just film yourself and then use that. Also, if you use songs that are popular inside TikTok, they'll be more likely to get higher engagement, and actually people watch it and then follow along and buy from your product. So just make sure that your content looks like what you would normally see on TikTok. If you don't have videos, but you would still like to display video format ads inside TikTok, you can also create videos inside TikTok. They give you a tool where you can select a template that you want to use. For example, if you want to advertise clothing, there's a template for clothing. You can upload a bunch of images, and then TikTok will sort of mash them together and create a short video that you can use an ad. It's something you can use. I do not recommend this. I'm pretty sure it's not going to work very well, just because people can sense that it's not sort of native content, it's not fun, it's not entertaining, it will not grab their attention. So you can do it, but I highly, highly recommend that you create your own videos, as I described before, and also the advanced strategies I'll describe in the later section. Now you know what type of creatives are available on TikTok for advertising. In the next lecture, you can follow along as I actually create our first campaign from scratch, and you'll follow step by step as I go through all these settings, and I'll sort of walk you through what I think are the best options. Congratulations, now you know all the necessary theory behind building TikTok campaigns. In this lecture, we're going to build a campaign from scratch, finally what you've been waiting for. You can follow along and watch the process step by step as I create a campaign from the beginning to the very end. By the end of this lecture, you'll understand the process of campaign creation, and you will know how to make a campaign for your specific business case. All right, here I am in my TikTok Ads Manager. To create a new campaign, you want to go ahead and click on Campaign and then click on Create, and you will see a first page similar to this. Again, depending on your location or where you are, you might have different objectives available. As I mentioned, I've discussed more objectives before, so it depends on your country. We discussed traffic, which is just sending people to your website. App install, obviously if you have an app, you can optimize for installing the app. And then conversions, which is the most popular, where you want to optimize for people doing certain things on the website. For example, add to cart or view a specific page. So I'm going to go ahead and click on conversion because that's the most popular one, and that's the campaign we are going to create. As soon as you click on conversion, you'll open a new menu, and you start off, you can choose to select the campaign name. So I'll just say conversions. And then you can put any details that will help you separate this campaign from all the other ones. So I already know that we're going to create a campaign in the US, and then you might put any other information that's relevant for you. So I'll just put conversion, and then I'll put lookalike audience, because I know that's what I want to create, and it's easy for me to distinguish it from the other campaigns. Then we have the option to create a split test. And with a split test, as you can see over here, it says it's only available for targeting, which means when we create a split test, that TikTok will create within this campaign 2 different ad groups, and then you can have a different variable in those ad groups. For example, you can target male and female customers, or you could do a custom audience and a lookalike audience. And then TikTok will run both of these ad groups at the same time and compare the results, and you can see which one is better. So I'll leave that selected, and as you can see over here, there's one campaign and then 2 ad groups, ad group A and ad group B, and you can select different ones and then compare the performance. And then finally, we have the budget limit. Now, you do not need to have a limit on the campaign level. We'll do a daily cap on the ad group level, but I like to create a daily cap anyways, just in case I miss a number or something. I don't want to waste a big budget, so I put usually $1,000 as a cap, just so I can sleep better. We'll go ahead and click on continue. It'll take us to the ad group level. In the ad group level, you're going to start out with selecting the name. Now we can leave this as it is. I don't usually change those. Next up, we have the placements. Now, I told you there are several different placements, not just TikTok. There's other ones. Usually, I just keep the automatic. As you can see, Hello is only in India, Penguin is only in Japan, and there's some other ones also just in India. The other placements, I usually just leave it automatic because I believe that TikTok will find the base audience within all of those networks. Next up, you can block list if you have any brand identity or brand safety you need to adhere to. You can do that over here. And then we have the ad details. So first off, we've selected the conversion campaign, which means we're sending people from TikTok to a website, and we want them to do something on that website. So to start off, you need to tell them which website or where you're sending those users. So I've copied a link to my website, and I'll go ahead and paste it here. And I want to send people from, this is the website where we've created the website pixel in the previous lecture. So I know that the website is the pixel and it's tracking properly. So you'll put in the website, and then you select which pixel you want to choose. So I have this website pixel, which I've installed, and there's a button click event. So this is the pixel, and the button click event is what TikTok is going to optimize for. So we'll find users that are most likely to click on this button based on all the data that they have. And that's only possible because we have that pixel in there. If you would select the traffic campaign, you wouldn't have to choose the pixel and the event over here. You would just put in the URL, because if it's just traffic, then you're just telling TikTok that you want to get as many people as possible, and it doesn't matter what they do on the website. So that's what we're going to do. And then you want to put in the display name. That's the when the ad is actually run on user's feed, it will have a name as well. So I would say get Salute, because that's the name of the business over there. And your profile, upload a profile image. I'm not sure why TikTok makes you do it on every ad group. To me, that's a little strange. For example, on Facebook and the other places, it's like the default for the whole account if you want to, or it's just sort of uploaded automatically, but you have to create it every time. And it's basically, again, when it's just run on user's feed, then in the corner, it'll be a logo icon for to identify the advertiser. So you have to upload a new one every time. I'm going to go ahead and upload a logo here. Just submit. And just take the first logo. So you just use your company logo. Next, you just select the category. So this is a category that best fits your product or whatever you're selling. Again, the categories are somewhat limited, but you should be able to find what you need. For this specific category, we're going to go ahead and click Internet and Technology, and then we can do digital product accessories. So that's the category that fits that specific product. And then you ask for add tags. So these are tags that are up to 20 keywords or tags that describe your product and will help TikTok match the right users to the product. That's also what it says in the description. So this one, you could say website, say tool. If you also have a website, if you have an app, you could say app, or you can select up to 20 keywords that's specific. Business card, social media. So these are all the keywords that will be relevant for this specific product, and you want to select the ones best for you, and you can do up to 20. Then you have the user comments allowed on the TikTok by default. On this specific video, users can comment. You can turn it off, but I don't see a reason to turn it off, so I just leave it on. And then we have the targeting. This is the most important part of the ad group, and we've discussed this before. As I mentioned, there's 3 different ways to target an audience. There's the interest-based category, there's the demographics, and then there's the custom audiences and lookalike audiences. As I mentioned before, the interest-based category is least effective in my opinion. Then we have the demographic, which is a bit better, and then the custom and lookalike audiences, which are by far the most effective way to advertise, at least from my experience. So as an example, in this specific case, we could compare interest-based category with a lookalike audience. We've created the A/B test in the campaign level, and as you can see, it's created 2 different targeting for us. We have 2 different groups, Group A and Group B. So in this specific group, I would go ahead and select a category that I want to target. So maybe I want to target tools, and then you might want to find categories that are relevant for you. As you can see, there's quite a bit of categories over here. And then let's say we'll do tech and electronics. Now, these categories are not very specific. That's why, in my experience, they're not very effective. But if you have nothing else, you can just use that. So I would create that. And I would also add some demographic information to help the interest-based category. So I want to target all the users that are interested in tools and tech and electronics. And by interest, I just mean what kind of content they watch on TikTok. And the algorithm will automatically match them. And let's say this product was for a male, so I'd select male. And then I would select the specific target markets that are available. So in this case, I would do United States. Again, depending on your amount of access and your location and what kind of account you have, you might have different locations available. So just don't worry about what you see over there. In my section, yours might be a little different. So targeting A, we have selected demographics and interest base. And also you can select the type of device you want to run it on. If it matters to you, you can select one, or you can just leave it open. Let's say I want to only target iOS users because my tool is only available on iOS. Then I would do that. And then to create another group, I would go ahead and create targeting. And then I would select the category, the audience that I've created before. So click web and iOS, US, broad. So this is a lookalike audience I've created before, and now I can use that one over there. This one, when you create a lookalike audience, I've already selected US as my target location, so I do not need to create another demographic location over here and say also US. So I'll just leave that one open. The only thing I'll do is also limit it to iOS. When you're creating 2 different targeting groups for the A/B tests, you shouldn't change too many variables. It's best if you only change one variable, meaning that it's not a good idea to have different, let's say you would have different locations, different age groups, different genders, for example, then you don't really know what really made a difference. Ideally, you would only change one thing. So in this specific thing, we changed the type of targeting. You might want to target, for example, male and target A, and then target B would be female. Or you would do one age group in target A, and then another age group in target B. So only try to change one variable, because then it's easier to isolate what really made the difference. Okay, we have selected our targeting, and then finally we have the daily budget. So based on the information that you've put in so far, TikTok will automatically put in a daily budget. Now, this is a very, very high daily budget, and I always start very low. So I would go ahead and put in only $50. The minimum is $20 on TikTok. Actually, if you put in 10, you'll see it takes 20 as the minimum. So that's the absolute minimum, but I would put 50 as a start, because I think when you're starting up, it's good to start with a smaller budget, and then if it works, you can upscale, you can scale the budgets up, you can spend more money, but that's how it is. And the test schedule, it will be also set by default. It'll set on a calendar of when it starts and when it finishes. So this one is until, it runs for about 5 days. You can change it yourself. If you don't have the split test, so over here, if you don't have the 2 groups, you would only have one of it without selecting the split test, then you don't need to put a test schedule. It would just start running, and it will run indefinitely until you turn it off, but it's up to you. And then we have the final part, which is the bidding and the optimization in the ad group. So it asked me what I want to optimize for. Is the conversion or the click? Now, optimization for conversion, again, the conversion was clicking the button on the website. So I'm telling, if I say conversion, I'm telling TikTok that I want TikTok to find users that are most likely to click on that button on the website. If you would say just click, that means you want TikTok to find users that are most likely to click on the ad itself. So we're going to go ahead and stick to conversions. The billing event, which just means what you're paying for, and you're paying for the click. So even though we're optimizing for the conversion event on the website, we're paying for every click on the ad. That's what we pay for. And you can choose that. And if you hover over any of these question marks, it'll give you a bit more detail. And then there is the bidding actual bidding strategy, and how you want to, if you want to optimize for learning phase or later on. So optimization for conversions in the learning phase, or optimization for clicks in the learning phase. Now I use these, I just keep the default of optimizing for conversions. The learning phase is basically just the first couple of events where the algorithm has to figure out what's the best audience to match with your product. And the learning phase will, the length of the learning phase will vary depending on how much money you can spend. So the more money you can spend, the quicker you can learn. So you either have the time or you have the money. I like to leave it as optimization for the conversions. You can also optimize for the clicks and then later on optimize for the conversions. That's a possibility. But we'll leave that as conversions. And then you select the bid. This is basically what we talked about, that the ads are an auction. You're bidding for attention and you're competing with other companies. And you have to know how much you're willing to pay for one customer. So it says how much I'm willing to bid for one conversion. So let's say I know that the value of the conversion is $1. So if I say $1, I'm telling TikTok, I want you to find as many users as possible, and I'm willing to pay for up to $1 per conversion, as many as possible within my $50 a day budget. That's basically what you're telling TikTok. So as long as you know what's your cost and how much you need to pay, that's what you can do here. And then finally, we have the standard accelerated delivery. So if you want to, standard delivery is that the ads will be delivered to users at a normal rate. Accelerated just means that they'll be delivered much quicker because maybe you want to learn much quicker, you need to collect data faster. That's what you do, but I just always leave it at standard. And then finally, we have third-party tracking settings. So if you have a third-party attribution tool like Adjust or AppsFlyer, you can use that over here, and then you can track and attribute it with your revenue, for example. So that's all for the ad group. That was a lot of work. Oh, there's something missing in the ad group. Scroll back up. Oh, yes. Okay, so it turns out that you do need to select a location, even though this one has selected US as a location, but it still requires you to select the location. It's supposed to be United States. So I'll go ahead and click on the US. That's a recent change. The location was not required before. So, and yes, I selected male user, so I'm going to go ahead and select male as well. So it matches the audience and everything is the same. We've only isolated one variable that's different. So, great. Also, one thing to note, on the right side, you get a little widget over here that tells you some information. It's basically a highlight of the targeting of what we have here and also the audience size. If it's too narrow, then it'll show you over here that it's too narrow. If it's too broad, it's too broad. From my experience, this tool is not 100% precise, and I don't really look at it when I run the campaigns. I haven't found that it correlates with performance. So a lot of times it says too narrow or too broad. I'll still run the campaign, but I get really good performance out of the campaign. So I don't find that this is very valuable. And then the final part is the actual ad level. So here, like I mentioned before, you can upload images or videos. I do not recommend using images at all, so we're not going to even cover it. TikTok is a video platform, you should use videos. And even if you only have images, you can create videos from those images over here. So let me just show you real quick. You can go ahead and click on create a video, and then it'll give you a number of formats or templates that you can use to create a video. So I'll click on use a video template. As you can see, there's a bunch of templates over here. Whatever might be your product, I will go ahead and select one of them. I apologize, my internet is very slow, so it's loading very slowly right here. You're gonna go ahead and create on click on use, and that will take that template. And here you can upload images, and it'll automatically put it into the template, and it'll create a video. So if you don't have any videos, there's a simple way to create videos using images, but it's not the best way to do it because users will see that it's not a real video, it's sort of made, it's manufactured. Next up, you either have videos in your library, but we can go ahead and add new ones from the computer. So I just have a video here, and I will upload that one. And I'll say that we'll deliver it to all the platforms that we have selected, all the networks that we have selected, and we have to wait until it's uploaded. Once your video is fully uploaded, you'll be able to see the overview over here. All you have to do now is just add a text, and that's the short text that will be displayed over here. So whatever will describe your ad or your product the best way. So we already have the tagline over here that says time for self-care, so I'll just use the same one. It has to be at least 12 characters, but no more than 100. And then you just select call to action. From my experience, learn more tends to be the best call to action, no matter what it is that you're selling. I've tried it with downloads or signups, or if it's an app install or whatever, but people don't want to take all these actions. People don't want to download apps or sign up or fill up forms. You can just say learn more. It's simple enough that they'll click on it, but then they'll actually go through with the action. So you should try different ones if you want, but from my experience, learn more is the best one. You can also choose a different thumbnail, and you can also generate a different name. This is just visible for you. It's not for the users, so I don't really care for those. But yeah, that's it. So this is the last part. And now all you have to do is click submit, and the ad will be submitted for review. TikTok reviews every single ad manually, unlike in Facebook. I'm sure there's some AI and technology, but it takes longer, and I know that it's much stricter. For example, on Facebook, Instagram, or Snapchat, you can upload a video and it'll be ready to go in 5, 20, 30 minutes sometimes. It goes very fast. On TikTok, it could be hours, sometimes even a day. I have to wait until the ad is reviewed. And at the beginning, a lot of my ads were rejected because I didn't read through the policies of how you're supposed to advertise. And it's much more strict than it is on Instagram. So my best recommendation is just to upload videos. And if you get rejected, they'll tell you why it is rejected. And then just sort of try to fix it and then improve going forward. To recap, now you know exactly how to build a campaign completely from the beginning, through creating the campaign, the ad group, and the ad, to the finish of actually submitting it for review. Congratulations. In the next lecture, we're going to figure out how to evaluate the performance of your campaigns. You've submitted an ad, and you will get some data from it. And in the next lecture, I'll be able to explain what is a good performing ad and then how to treat the bad performing ones. Now you know how to build a campaign from scratch, but how do you know if the campaign is going well? How do you know how much longer you should wait and see the results improve? That's exactly what we're going to cover in this lecture, how to evaluate the performance of your campaigns. By the end of this lecture, you'll understand what numbers to look at to figure out if your campaign is doing well or not, and how long you need to give the campaign before it would stabilize the price. Here we are in the TikTok Ads Manager inside of our campaigns. And as you can see, this is the one campaign that we have just created. It is the split testing campaign. And I'll just walk you through the numbers that we see right here. When you're starting off, this all is going to be empty because we have just created the campaign. You can see the status is already active on the campaign, which is great. It tells us what's the objective. This is the conversions campaign, and the budget on the campaign level was $1,000. Now, this is for the overall total campaign. Then later we can look at the ad group and the actual ad. Over here, we'll see the total ad cost for the selected time period. So if you select today, you'll see the total cost you spent today. CPC is cost per click, so the average amount of money that you pay for each click. CPM is cost per 1,000 impressions. It can be a bit confusing, but AM stands for 1,000, so 1,000 impressions. So if the ad is shown to 1,000 people, what is the cost for that? Over here, you'll see the total number of impressions, so how many people have seen the ad, how many of them have actually clicked on it, the click-through rate. So that's the rate of what percentage of users saw the ad and then clicked on it. If 100 people saw the ad and one clicked on it, that's a 1% click-through rate. Then we have the conversions. It's a conversion campaign. So let's say if the conversion was that you want somebody to go to your website and add an item to cart. And that'll be one conversion, and it'll be shown here as a conversion. And CPA is cost per acquisition, or the average amount of money it costs you to get that conversion. So if you would spend $10 and you get one conversion, your average CPA would be $10. And then we have the conversion rate. So the percentage of the results you achieved out of all the clicks of your ad. So for the people that have clicked on your ad, how many actually converted in the conversions. And then here we have results, cost per result, and the results rate. So this will depend on what's your optimization goal. If it's conversions, then this will show the number of conversions, the cost per conversion, and then the conversion rate. If it was website traffic, for example, it would show you all the people that have gone to your website, what was the cost per one person going to your website. So the cost per result depends on whatever your ad objective is. So that's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. When I evaluate the performance, we look at the ad group level, not at the campaign level, because you usually have, almost always, we'll have several ad groups within one campaign. So I'll go ahead and click on the ad group. And here we see that there's two different ad groups. We've created the A/B test, if you remember. And the numbers here are very similar, but if you recall, the budget was $20 per day. We had our bid, which is 50 cents. And then all the other numbers are the same as we saw on the campaign level, but they're just adjusted on the ad level. So I would evaluate the ad groups based on the performance, and I'll look at these numbers over here. The most important number is the cost per result. So this cost per result, there's also the CPA in our case. So cost per result just means how much you're paying for a given event. If I wanted to get people to, let's say, go to a website and sign up for a newsletter, that's my optimization event, and that's what I want to optimize for. Then I would want to know how much I'm paying for that, and that's by far the most important number. The other numbers will give you indications of the performance, but unless you have a lot of campaigns and some history and data, those numbers will not necessarily make sense. So I don't really use those, especially at the beginning. I direct myself with the cost per result. Now, when you're starting off, at first, the ad group and the campaign will be entered into a learning phase, what's called the learning phase. Now, in the learning phase, the prices will be a bit higher and they'll fluctuate a bit more, because in the learning phase, the algorithm has to learn what is the best target users to match with your product. Now, the official recommendation of TikTok is that you need 50 optimization events to exit the learning phase. So basically for the algorithm to learn enough. That means if my optimization event is sign up for a newsletter, I need 50 people to sign up for a newsletter in order for me to understand this is a stable price. Now you can expect during the learning phase, the price per result will be 20 to 30% higher. So if the cost per result you expect to be $1, then in the learning phase, it could be $1.2, $1.3. And that's very normal. From my experience, at the beginning, it is important to go through the learning phase. Yes, it's going to be a bit more expensive. And if your cost per result is $1, to go through 50 of them, you have to spend $50 just to learn if the ad group is working. And at the beginning, that's just what you have to do. You have to allow the algorithm to learn. From my experience, once you've run a couple of campaigns and the algorithm has had more data, you do not need to go through all 50 of the optimization events. And actually, I noticed that once you've run enough campaigns, you can run the campaign for maybe a day and only spend $5, and you already see patterns. You already see if the cost per result is higher or lower than your average. So it's actually much cheaper to run the campaigns after some time, after you spend a budget. But at the beginning, you need to allow the algorithms to learn, and you just have to spend some money, and it's going to be a bit higher than you would normally pay, but that's totally fine. Now, as I mentioned, that TikTok in general is currently the most underpriced attention, so it's cheaper than it's going to be anywhere else on, for example, Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat. On average, TikTok is still cheaper. So even though you're paying a bit more at the beginning, it's very much worth it because you're teaching the algorithm what's your product, what are ideal users, and that's how you're going to be able to evaluate whether it works or not. Let's take an example of app installs. If I know that my average cost per install, an app install, is $1, I will run a couple of campaigns and I'll run some ad groups, and I'll see within the first, within the first $5 or $10 I spent, I will see if the cost per install is a little lower, a little higher than my targeted $1. And I will already turn off the campaigns that don't perform well, and I will scale the budgets that perform well. But you can only do this once you've spent quite a bit of money and once the algorithms have learned your product really, really well and the prices are more stable. But at the beginning, you have to go through the optimization in the learning phase. As you know, we're currently running the split test in the campaign, but there's another way that I sometimes run split tests. So it depends on if I want to test the targeting or the creative. If I want to test the targeting, what I will do is I'll have one campaign. I'll create, for example, 5 different ad groups, and I will not choose the split testing option as we did in this case. I'll just create 5 ad groups in that one campaign, and I'll change the targeting in each of those ad groups, but I'll keep the same creatives. And I'll run all of those, and then in a day or a couple of days, I will see the difference in performance, and I can turn off the ad groups that are not doing really well, and I'll just keep the ad groups that are performing really well, maybe the 1 or 2 that are the best performing. And that basically just tells me that this ad group and this targeting is the best optimization scale, and that's the one I'm going to keep, and I'm going to keep increasing the budget on that one. So that's for testing different targeting, so your audience. If I want to test different creatives, I can select campaign, and then I'll do, let's say, 5 different ad groups, but in each ad group, I'll have the same targeting for all of them. So same ad group, same audience, but each ad group will have one creative that's different. So I'll have 5 different creatives. So I have group A and creative 1, group B, creative 2, group C, creative 3. And again, the targeting will be the same, but the creatives will be different. Again, I'll run these the same way, and after a couple of days, I will see the results, and I'll see which creative has performed best for a given audience. And this is basically how I run split tests quickly without having to rely on the limited functionality of the current split testing tool inside of TikTok ads. Now you know that the optimization and the learning phase requires 50 optimization events. You also know that the cost per result is the most important number you need to look at when you value the performance of your campaign. And finally, you know how to run your own split tests without having to rely on the limited availability of the built-in split testing feature. In the next lecture, we're going to take a look at how to scale a budget for an ad group. So let's say you have an ad group that works really well, and you can't just 10x the budget overnight. So we're going to take a look at how can you scale it properly without increasing the cost per result. If you launch a campaign in ad groups and it works really, really well, you can't just jump the budget, the daily cap budget from $50 to like $500. That will ruin the campaign. In this lecture, we're going to cover how to scale your campaigns and ad groups without jeopardizing the performance. By the end of the lecture, you'll know how to scale the budget without losing the good cost per result that you're getting. The first thing you need to know is that you have to scale a budget incrementally. You can't just go from $50 a day to $500. This is going to confuse the algorithm. That's what TikTok is telling me, and I've seen that from my experience as well. You have to increase it slowly. So if you have a budget of $50, maybe try 75 the next day. Then you can go to 100, then 200 maybe 300, and then eventually you'll get to 500. But you need to scale slowly. You can't just jump to 500 from 50 because it's too radical a change for the algorithm. It gets a little too confused, and then your cost per result will increase. We don't want that to do. The point of the scaling is that you want to increase the amount of money you spend without increasing the cost per result. As you keep scaling your budget, at some point, the campaign will simply not spend the entire daily cap, or the ad group will not spend all the money that you have allocated. That just means that you've hit sort of a point where the campaign is struggling to find more users at that price. It will not increase the cost per result. It'll just not spend as much. Now, when you hit this point, where you've been scaling, and you cannot scale anymore, and because the campaign doesn't seem to fulfill the new budget, let's say your new daily cap is $500, but the campaign only spends $400. That's the best you can do right now. But there's 3 things you can do to increase this number and keep scaling the budget as well. The first thing you can do is increase the bid. So if your bid was, let's say, you wanted to pay 50 cents for every person that will go to your website and sign up for a newsletter, as an example. You can offer 55 cents or 60 cents. Yes, this will be a bit more expensive, but it will allow you to spend more money and reach that daily cap. The second thing you can do is broaden the targeting. So let's say you're targeting all the 18 to 25-year-olds. You can also include the 26 to 35-year-olds as an example, or include a new country, include a new audience, broaden the lookalike if you have a specific one. So there's something you can do with the targeting to increase the group, to allow the algorithm more space to find better people. And finally, you can include more creatives. Now, this is a bit of a tricky one because your campaign probably works really well because the creatives are good. And you shouldn't test new creatives in this space. You should test new creatives in a separate campaign, separate ad group. But if you have creatives that you know will work well with this audience, you can include those into the ad group as well. And this will hopefully give you another push. Ad groups and campaigns follow a natural curve of spending money. So you'll start out spending low. At some point, you'll sort of reach a peak, and for a while, you can spend a good amount of money. Let's say if you want to spend $500, you can spend $500, and depending on many variables, it could be several days, several weeks, several months, where you can spend $500 a day. But eventually, it'll start to drop, and it'll start to go down to 0. That's sort of the natural progression of the curve, and that's how it's going to go. So there's 3 things you can do to sort of bump it up again, or you can just sort of accept that that's a natural progression of a good campaign, and you should constantly keep testing campaigns and constantly be testing new targeting and new creatives, so that once your campaigns start to go up, you have a new one that you can prop up and then keep those results same high. Now you know that you need to increase your daily budget incrementally. You know what to do if your ad budget is bigger than what the ad can actually spend, and you also know that there's a natural progression of how much money are you going to spend in the campaign, and it's eventually going to go down to 0 unless you do something about it. In the next lecture, we're going to take a look at what to do when the campaign doesn't perform very well.